Meet Fernando, 45 years old, a man who has spent the past several years desperately searching for answers to explain his dramatically declining libido. He's been on a relentless quest through the medical system and supplement industry, looking for the hormonal solution that will restore his lost sexual desire. He's had his testosterone tested multiple times, trying different labs and different times of day, hoping to find the explanation in his hormone levels. He's tried countless supplements marketed for testosterone boosting, libido enhancement, in male vitality, spending hundreds or thousands of dollars on bottles of pills with impressive-sounding ingredients and bold claims. He's explored various medical interventions and consulted with different doctors, seeking the magic prescription that will fix him. He's fallen for numerous miraculous promises from supplement companies, online gurus, and alternative health practitioners, claiming they have the secret solution that mainstream medicine doesn't want you to know. And despite all this effort, all this money spent, all this time invested in searching for answers, nothing has worked. His libido remains stubbornly absent or minimal. His sexual desire continues to be a fraction of what it once was, and Fernando is increasingly frustrated, confused, and hopeless, wondering why nothing seems to help him when it apparently works for other men. What Fernando has never suspected, what has never even crossed his mind as a potential explanation, because it seems so mundane and innocuous, is that the true villain behind his vanishing libido has been present in his daily routine all along, hiding in plain sight, in small, seemingly harmless doses. Sugar in his morning coffee, 2 or 3 spoonfuls to make it palatable. A sweet dessert after lunch, just a small treat to finish the meal and give him an afternoon energy boost. Mid-afternoon snacks that seem innocent, maybe a granola bar or some cookies or a pastry with his afternoon coffee. An evening sweet while watching television to unwind from the stressful day. Occasional sodas or fruit juices. The sugar is everywhere in his diet. But because he's not consuming obviously excessive amounts, because he's not eating entire cakes or drinking 2-liter bottles of soda, because each individual instance seems moderate and normal, Fernando has never identified sugar consumption as a potential problem worth addressing. He thinks of sugar as a minor dietary issue related to weight or cavities, not something that could possibly be destroying his sexual function and masculine vitality. The hero of today's story, and this may be your story if you recognize yourself in Fernando's frustrating search for answers in all the wrong places, discovers something that changes his entire understanding of what's been happening to his body. Fernando learns that his libido is not failing due to a hormone deficiency or a broken sexual system.
His libido is being systematically shut down metabolically by a condition called insulin resistance, a state of severe metabolic dysfunction caused directly by his years of regular sugar consumption and the resulting chronic elevation of blood glucose and insulin. This insulin resistance, which develops silently over years without obvious dramatic symptoms until it progresses to full diabetes, is blocking and impairing virtually every physiological process necessary for healthy male sexual function. It's suppressing testosterone production, impairing testosterone receptor sensitivity, damaging his circulatory system and blood flow, creating chronic inflammation throughout his body, depleting his cellular energy production, affecting his brain chemistry, and generally creating a metabolic environment where sexual desire simply cannot exist. His sexual system isn't broken, it's being turned off by a metabolic disaster that sugar has been creating molecule by molecule, day by day, for years. Hello and welcome to another video here on the channel. If you're new here, I create evidence-based, practical, no-nonsense content about men's health, sexual function, metabolism, nutrition, and reclaiming the vitality you thought you'd lost. Please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss future videos that could fundamentally change your health trajectory. And if what we discussed today resonates with you, if it helps you finally understand the hidden metabolic factor destroying your libido that you've been completely overlooking, if it gives you clear, actionable strategies to address the root cause rather than chasing symptom treatments that don't work, please leave a like to help other frustrated men discover this crucial information. Today, we're going to expose one of the most common, yet most overlooked causes of male sexual dysfunction in modern society, which is insulin resistance and metabolic dysfunction caused by chronic sugar consumption. In this video, you're going to understand exactly how frequent consumption of sugar, even in amounts that seem moderate or normal by modern standards, creates insulin resistance, a state where your cells become progressively less responsive to insulin and your blood sugar regulation becomes severely impaired. I'm going to explain mechanistically how insulin resistance inflames your entire body at the cellular level, creating the chronic systemic inflammation that we've discussed in previous videos as a libido killer. I'm going to detail specifically why men with insulin resistance have tremendous difficulty producing adequate testosterone, why even the testosterone they do produce doesn't work effectively due to receptor dysfunction, why their circulation and vascular health deteriorate, leading to erectile dysfunction, and why their sexual energy and desire disappear, even when standard lab tests might still show results in the normal range. During this phase, which can last years, your standard fasting glucose tests at the doctor might show normal results, leading you and your doctor to believe everything is fine. But your fasting insulin levels, which doctors rarely test, are likely significantly elevated, and your post-meal blood sugar spikes are likely excessive and prolonged. You're metabolically dysfunctional, but not yet diagnosed with any disease. Eventually, if the pattern continues, your pancreas cannot keep up with the escalating insulin demand. It begins to fail, and blood sugar rises into the pre-diabetic and then diabetic range. At this point, you'll receive a diagnosis, but the metabolic dysfunction and damage to your sexual function began years earlier when insulin resistance was developing silently. Now let's understand specifically how this insulin-resistant state destroys male sexual function through multiple interconnected mechanisms. First, and most directly, insulin resistance and chronically elevated insulin powerfully suppress testosterone production. The Leydig cells in your testes that produce testosterone are regulated by hormonal signals from your pituitary gland and hypothalamus. High insulin levels interfere with this hormonal signaling axis at multiple points. Insulin directly suppresses the production of gonadotropin-releasing hormone from your hypothalamus and luteinizing hormone from your pituitary, reducing the signals that tell your testes to make testosterone. Additionally, insulin resistance impairs the function of the Leydig cells themselves, reducing their ability to produce testosterone even when they receive appropriate signals. The result is that men with insulin resistance typically have significantly lower testosterone than metabolically healthy men of the same age, and this testosterone suppression is directly proportional to the severity of the insulin resistance. Second, insulin resistance and elevated insulin dramatically increase the activity of the aromatase enzyme, which converts testosterone into estrogen. Aromatase is particularly concentrated in fat tissue, and insulin resistance typically leads to increased fat accumulation, especially dangerous visceral abdominal fat. So insulin resistance gives you both increased aromatase activity and increased fat tissue containing that aromatase, creating a double effect where you're producing less testosterone and converting more of what you produce into estrogen. The result is a hormonal profile characterized by low testosterone and elevated estrogen, which is catastrophic for male sexual function, body composition, mood, energy, and overall vitality. Third, insulin resistance directly impairs the function and sensitivity of testosterone receptors throughout your body. Even if you have testosterone levels in the normal range, or even if you're taking testosterone replacement therapy and have elevated testosterone levels, that testosterone cannot exert its full effects if your receptors aren't working properly. Insulin resistance makes tissues less responsive to testosterone, similar to how it makes cells less responsive to insulin. This means you experience symptoms of low testosterone, including low libido, even when measured testosterone levels might appear adequate. This receptor dysfunction is a major reason why testosterone replacement often produces disappointing results in men who are metabolically dysfunctional with insulin resistance. Fourth, insulin resistance causes severe damage to your vascular system and circulatory health, directly impairing erectile function. Chronically elevated blood sugar, even blood sugar that's technically in the pre-diabetic range but repeatedly spiking high after meals, is toxic to blood vessels. It damages the endothelium, the critical inner lining of blood vessels that produces nitric oxide and regulates blood flow. It promotes oxidative stress and inflammation. It accelerates atherosclerosis, the accumulation of plaques in arteries that narrow them and reduce blood flow. It impairs the production of nitric oxide, the molecule absolutely essential for blood vessel dilation and erectile function. The small blood vessels in the penis are among the first to show dysfunction because they're more sensitive to damage than larger vessels. This is why erectile dysfunction is often called the canary in the coal mine for cardiovascular disease, an early warning sign that vascular damage is occurring throughout the body. Men with insulin resistance and prediabetes have dramatically higher rates of erectile dysfunction, and the severity of erectile dysfunction correlates directly with the severity of metabolic dysfunction. Fifth, insulin resistance creates chronic systemic inflammation throughout your entire body. Excess visceral fat that accumulates with insulin resistance is metabolically active tissue that produces large quantities of inflammatory cytokines. Chronically elevated insulin itself promotes inflammation. High blood sugar promotes inflammation through multiple mechanisms, including glycation, where glucose molecules bind to proteins and damage them. And insulin resistance impairs the ability of insulin to perform its anti-inflammatory functions, in addition to its glucose-regulating functions. This chronic inflammation suppresses testosterone production, impairs brain chemistry and mood, depletes energy, damages tissues throughout the body, and directly suppresses libido through all the mechanisms we've discussed in previous videos about inflammation. Sixth, insulin resistance severely impairs your cellular energy production, leaving you chronically fatigued and without the energy necessary for sexual desire or activity.
Your mitochondria, the cellular powerhouses that produce ATP energy, require efficient glucose metabolism to function optimally. When you're insulin resistant, glucose cannot efficiently enter cells, so even though you have plenty of glucose in your bloodstream, your cells are paradoxically energy-starved. Additionally, insulin resistance impairs mitochondrial function directly through oxidative stress and inflammation. The result is profound chronic fatigue, lack of vitality, inability to exercise effectively, and complete absence of the energy needed for sexual arousal and activity. Seventh, insulin resistance disrupts brain chemistry and neurotransmitter function in ways that directly suppress sexual desire and motivation. The brain regions involved in sexual desire and motivation, particularly the areas rich in dopamine receptors, are negatively affected by insulin resistance. Insulin actually has important functions in the brain related to neurotransmitter regulation, and insulin resistance in the brain impairs these functions. Additionally, the chronic inflammation produced by insulin resistance affects brain chemistry. The result is reduced dopamine function, leading to loss of motivation and desire for all rewarding activities, including sex. Men with insulin resistance often describe feeling flat, unmotivated, unable to feel excitement or enthusiasm, and this extends to sexual desire, which simply disappears, even when they intellectually want sex. All of these mechanisms are operating simultaneously in Fernando's body, creating a perfect storm of metabolic and hormonal dysfunction that has completely shut down his libido. His search for hormonal solutions has been futile because the root cause isn't a simple hormone deficiency that can be fixed with testosterone replacement or supplements. The root cause is profound metabolic dysfunction caused by years of sugar consumption creating insulin resistance, and until that metabolic dysfunction is addressed, no amount of hormones or supplements will fully restore his sexual function. Now, let's talk about how to identify insulin resistance in yourself, because standard medical testing often misses this condition until it's quite advanced. The most obvious physical sign is increased abdominal fat, particularly a large belly that's disproportionate to fat elsewhere on your body. This visceral fat accumulation is a hallmark of insulin resistance. Other physical signs include darkened skin patches, particularly in body folds and creases, called acanthosis nigricans, skin tacks, which are small benign growths, often on the neck and armpits, and male pattern hair loss, which is exacerbated by insulin resistance.
All refined carbohydrates must also be eliminated or drastically reduced, including white bread, white rice, pasta, crackers, chips, pretzels, and most breakfast cereals, because these refined carbs are rapidly digested and spike blood sugar almost as dramatically as pure sugar. Replace these with whole food carbohydrate sources consumed in moderate amounts, primarily vegetables, which should be abundant, some fruit, particularly berries, which are lower in sugar, and for those who tolerate them, limited amounts of whole intact grains like quinoa or steel-cut oats, and starchy vegetables like sweet potatoes, though some men need to limit even these to fully reverse insulin resistance. The foundation of your diet should shift to protein and healthy fats, which do not spike blood sugar or insulin. Protein from high-quality sources like wild-caught fish, grass-fed meat, pastured eggs, and some plant sources support satiety, muscle mass, and metabolic health. Healthy fats from sources like fatty fish rich in omega-3s, extra virgin olive oil, avocados, nuts, and seeds provide sustained energy without affecting blood sugar, support hormone production, including testosterone, reduce inflammation, and make meals satisfying so you don't crave sugar. Vegetables should be abundant with every meal, providing fiber, micronutrients, and phytonutrients that support metabolic health and reduce inflammation. Beyond food elimination and replacement, meal timing and pattern matter significantly for reversing insulin resistance. Many men benefit from eating fewer meals per day, perhaps 2 or 3 substantial meals, rather than constant grazing, to allow insulin levels to drop between meals. Some men benefit from time-restricted eating, or intermittent fasting, confining eating to an 8 or 10-hour window each day, which gives the body extended periods of low insulin that improves insulin sensitivity. And crucially, eliminate all snacking between meals, particularly the afternoon sweets and evening desserts that Fernando has been consuming, because these snacks keep insulin chronically elevated and prevent insulin sensitivity from recovering. Exercise is a powerful intervention for reversing insulin resistance. Resistance training builds muscle, and muscle is the primary tissue for glucose disposal, so more muscle mass means better insulin sensitivity. Additionally, the muscle contractions during exercise activate glucose transporters independent of insulin, improving glucose uptake. Cardiovascular exercise also improves insulin sensitivity and helps reduce visceral fat. Even simple activities like walking after meals significantly blunts blood sugar spikes and improves insulin sensitivity over time. Sleep must be prioritized because sleep deprivation dramatically worsens insulin resistance through multiple mechanisms. Aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep nightly.
Stress management is also crucial because chronically elevated cortisol from stress worsens insulin resistance and promotes visceral fat accumulation. And if you're significantly overweight, losing fat, particularly visceral belly fat, will dramatically improve insulin sensitivity. But this should be accomplished through the dietary and lifestyle changes already discussed, rather than through extreme caloric restriction, which can worsen metabolic function. Consider strategic supplementation to support insulin sensitivity, including berberine, which has been shown to improve insulin sensitivity comparably to metformin, magnesium, which many men are deficient in, and which improves insulin function, chromium, alpha-lipoic acid, and omega-3 fish oil. But supplements cannot substitute for the fundamental dietary changes. They can only support and accelerate the process. When men implement these strategies consistently, the reversal of insulin resistance and recovery of sexual function can be dramatic and relatively rapid. Let me describe what Fernando's transformation might look like. Fernando finally understands that his sugar consumption is the root cause and commits to total elimination. He stops adding sugar to his coffee, stops eating desserts after meals, stops snacking on sweets in the afternoon and evening, and eliminates all processed foods containing added sugars. He replaces his carb-heavy meals with meals centered on protein, healthy fats, and abundant vegetables. He starts resistance training 3 times weekly and walking daily. He prioritizes sleep. He begins supplementing with berberine, magnesium, and omega-3s. The first week is challenging. He experiences sugar cravings, headaches, irritability, and fatigue as his body adapts to functioning without the constant sugar it's accustomed to. But he persists. By week 2, he notices his energy is becoming more stable throughout the day without the afternoon crashes. By week 4, he's lost noticeable belly fat, his cravings for sweets have largely disappeared, his thinking is clearer, and he's feeling more energetic. By weeks 6 to 8, something profound happens. His libido begins returning, gradually at first, with occasional sexual thoughts and feelings he hasn't experienced in years. His morning erections return. His overall vitality and motivation improve dramatically. By 3 months, his libido has returned to robust levels. His erectile function has improved significantly. He feels masculine, vital, and alive in ways he'd almost forgotten were possible. He gets retested, and the objective markers confirm what he's feeling. His fasting insulin has dropped from elevated to optimal range. His fasting glucose has normalized. His hemoglobin A1C has dropped significantly. His triglyceride to HDL ratio has improved dramatically.
His testosterone has increased naturally without hormone replacement because his metabolic dysfunction was suppressing it, and with metabolism restored, production normalized. This pattern of recovery when insulin resistance is reversed is common and reflects the fact that the sexual dysfunction was metabolic, not hormonal in origin. Fix the metabolism, and sexual function returns naturally. Before we close, several critical points. First, this is not a temporary diet. It's a permanent change to how you eat because insulin resistance will return if you return to sugar consumption. Second, some initial worsening of symptoms during the first 1 to 2 weeks as you withdraw from sugar is normal and temporary. Third, give the process adequate time. Most men need 2 to 3 months to see significant libido improvement. Fourth, This approach benefits every aspect of health, preventing diabetes, heart disease, dementia, cancer, and finally, if you've already developed diabetes, these strategies are still crucial but must be implemented under medical supervision. Now I have a question for you. Where does sugar appear most frequently in your daily routine? Is it morning coffee, afternoon snacks, evening desserts, sodas, hidden in processed foods? And is eliminating sugar your biggest pain point, the change you find most difficult? Please share honestly in the comments, because acknowledging your specific struggle is the first step to addressing it. If this video helped you finally understand the metabolic factor destroying your libido that you've been completely overlooking, please hit that like button to help other frustrated men find this information. Share this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Thank you for watching until the end. Your willingness to address root causes rather than chasing ineffective symptomatic treatments is what will restore your vitality. Now go eliminate that sugar. Your libido, your metabolism, your health are waiting on the other side. I believe in you. See you in the next video.